the Godfather Eddie Lyons Snr.
Murders are to do with long-running feud between the Lyons and the Daniels family.
The 4th of July, Scotland's most feared underworld figure, gangland godfather Eddie Lyons Snr arrived at Bishop Briggs Crematorium in North Glasgow for the funeral of not just his son, but his son's closest ally, Ross Monaghan. Both were high-ranking members of the notorious Lyons crime family, and both were brutally executed over 1,300 miles away in Spain. The double hit took place at Monaghan's bar in Fuengirola on May 31st. It was a targeted ambush that shocked the entire Lyons crew to its core. Just recently, the Spanish authorities repatriated the bodies. The two men were finally laid to rest side by side in a double funeral in Glasgow. Now that almost 2 months have passed since this brutal shooting, what's new with this case now? And who are the unexpected figures who showed up at the funeral? This funeral was the day the entire underworld came out of hiding. More than 500 people flooded into a crematorium to mourn Eddie Lyons Jr. and Ross Monaghan. You know you are dealing with serious money when the car park becomes a status symbol. Dozens of vehicles rolled in, including Range Rovers, Mercedes, and blacked-out SUVs that cost more than most people's houses. The service actually started late because they couldn't fit all the cars. Leading the whole procession was a single Range Rover, followed by 2 silver hearses. There were 2, because Eddie Lyons Jr. and Ross Monaghan died together, and Eddie Lyons Snr. wasn't about to separate them in death. Then came the moment everyone was watching for. Eddie Lyons Snr., the 67-year-old man. The police have feared for decades, had to be helped into the building. This is not some frail old man we're talking about. This is someone who built an empire through violence and intimidation. But grief doesn't care about your reputation. One witness said he looked like a broken man. And that's exactly what he was. He was there that day to bury his legacy. Grief looks different on everyone, but it hits just the same. But something else was happening in that room. Rumor is that some associates of the Kinahan cartel also attended the funeral. After the double shooting, the Kinahan cartel leadership had offered support to the families and expressed interest in attending. Their presence was not confirmed, but a few familiar faces in the crowd hinted they might have kept their promise. If you don't know about the Kinahans, they are basically the most wanted drug trafficking organization in Europe. They are international level dangerous. If members of their cartels were really present at the funeral, it means they are definitely going to help the Lyons take revenge for this devastating blow. The police were watching too. There were unmarked cars parked across the street, and officers were seen taking photos with long lenses. They didn't intervene, but they were documenting everything. Near the end, Forever Young was played, and the slideshow rolled, showing Eddie and Ross in their prime. These men lived by violence, but they died as sons, fathers, and friends. The coffins were placed side by side to show that they were equals in life, equals in death, even in grief. Hierarchy mattered to Eddie Lyons Snr. The coffins went down side by side as the rain kept falling. Now, everyone in that crematorium understood that this funeral was a beginning. Every tear shed is a vow for revenge. But to understand why those tears fell, you need to go back 3 weeks. Back to a Saturday night in Spain. It was May 31st in Fuengirola. Fuengirola is a sun-soaked beach town on Spain's Costa del Sol where British expats go to disappear and Scottish gangsters go to blend in. That day, tourists were stumbling between bars because the Champions League final had everyone glued to screens. Here, Monaghan's Irish pub was doing what Irish pubs do best. It was packed and flowing with beer. Ross Monaghan was in his bar, his territory, and his safe space thousands of miles from Glasgow's violence. Eddie Lyons Jr. had flown in recently. The two old friends were watching football in paradise, surrounded by familiar faces. But then at 11:30 p.m., everything changed. A figure in black, white cloth, pulled high over his face, walked toward the entrance. At that time, Eddie Lyons Jr. was standing on the terrace. He never saw it coming. The man shot Eddie right there, straight into the chest. Eddie dropped instantly, and inside, panic took over. Tourists started screaming and running, but the gunman was not interested in tourists. Ross Monaghan was inside the bar. He was hoping maybe the walls that had protected him for years could do it one more time. But they couldn't. The killer followed him in. CCTV captured what happened next, and the footage is so brutal it haunts everyone who has seen it. Ross is seen crawling on all fours across his own bar floor, already bleeding through his white t-shirt, leaving a trail behind him. He made it maybe 6 feet before the gunman calmly walked over, aimed down, and delivered 4 shots to the chest and stomach. Ross slumped against the wall of his own pub, and life drained out of him while his customers cowered in terror. The gunman ignored the staff and the customers, which means this was not robbery or random violence. This was a planned murder. 60 seconds. That's all the killer took to end 2 lives. The gunman melted away as quickly as he had appeared. He ran on foot at first, then sat into a waiting car that vanished into Fuengirola's narrow streets. By the time Spanish police arrived, Eddie was lying dead on the terrace, and Ross had bled out inside his own bar. When 2 major gangland figures are gunned down in public, you don't just bury them and move on. You have to find out who was behind the planned act. Spanish police believe they already know. From the moment the bullets were fired in Fuengirola, they were convinced this was a revenge hit tied directly to the Daniel crime family, which is the Lyons' longtime rival back in Scotland. And they say they have more than just a hunch. During the investigation, Spanish officers seized a mobile phone from the suspected shooter. That phone reportedly holds data, including messages, contacts, and links to known Daniel associates. That ties the alleged killer straight back to the Glasgow feud. According to sources close to the case, it is the smoking gun behind the smoking gun. But if you cross the border into Scotland, this is not the common theory. Even Ross Monaghan's own family backs the Scottish side. They said the Daniels had nothing to do with it. Now, whether that's what they believe or what they want to believe is another matter. Still, the Daniel connection is hard to ignore. The feud between them and the Lyons is one of Scotland's bloodiest, going back over 20 years, and Ross Monaghan was part of the reason the war exploded. In 2010, he was charged in the assassination of Daniel enforcer Kevin Gerbil Carroll. That hit took place in a supermarket car park in broad daylight, where Ross shot 13 bullets. And even though Ross was cleared of the charge, that kind of thing sticks. Years later, in 2017, Ross survived another shooting, this time outside his daughter's school. He was always a marked man. But the real twist is that this might not be about the Daniels at all. See, Ross was not just powerful in Glasgow. He had deep ties to the Irish Kinahan cartel, which is one of Europe's most dangerous drug networks. Back in 2016, he reportedly met Thomas Bomber Kavanagh, the UK boss for the Kinahans, and helped strengthen the Lyons-Kinahan link. So when Ross was killed, it wasn't just his own crew that reacted. The Kinahans called the families directly. They offered condolences and promised that they will get this sorted. Now that changes everything. Because if the Kinahans are involved, this feud is now international. And whatever went wrong in Spain clearly hit a nerve that crossed borders. Who do you think was behind this planned double murder? Share your theories with us in the comments below. And before you go, make sure to subscribe to our channel if you want all the updates on this case. We will see you in the next video. Goodbye.